I'm not sure if you got that I was on the call.
I did not. Thank you.
Welcome, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, Jamie, you can go ahead.
All right. With that, I would like to call the meeting for the Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, December 2nd to order. Could we please have the clerk call roll?
Mr. McCleister,
Present.
Mr. Dalpay,
Present.
Mr. Mahousen,
Here.
Mr. Sarah,
Present.
Mr. Volitz,
Here.
Okay. Well, oops. And with that, actually, I'm going to make a reminder that if you are not speaking at this moment, if you could please go on mute so we can cut back on some of the background noise, that would be great. And with that, I would like to discuss our first item on the agenda, which would be the submittal for September 17th, 2020 meeting minutes, and that would be for our approval. Do I have a second? Or a motion, excuse me.
I'll make a motion to approve the December 2nd meeting. This is Tom Sayre.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Sarah. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Awesome.
Eric, please.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, motion carries. Next item up for agenda would be item number 4, which is election for the appointment of chairperson to the Community Reinvestment Area Housing Council for the year of 2021.
I will.
Motion.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to appoint Mr. McCleister into this position if he will accept.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sarah, and I do accept. Is there a second?
I'll second. Eric Delpace.
Thank you, Mr. Delapaz. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Now on to the first, well, I guess not the first, but the next item on the agenda would be hearing from those from Zion Evangelical Lutheran Church. And we have somebody from the applicant here to talk about this, proposal.
Yes, my name is Darlene Milovikas. I'm council president at Zion Lutheran Church there on Lindy Lane. What we were doing is we had the property around our parsonage, which we have been using as a rental. We no longer use it as a parsonage. And when the surveyors went to submit it, they said that it was not zoned for residential, that it was park and institutional. So we are asking to change that to residential.
Okay.
The house was built in 1959, before the church was even erected on that property. And it was always a home for the ministers until 1998. We started to rent it as a Sifrin house. And then 3 years ago, it's just been a regular rental.
Okay. Very good. Well, thank you for the description, Darlene. And Mr. Van Gundy, do you have anything from the city?
Yes, sir. Thank you. These two items, item number 5 and 6, go together, is we do need both of those to move forward. We can't have one without the other, given the zoning and the restrictions for the parks and institution. And this has been reviewed with the city engineer. We concur that it does meet the applicable zoning codes. A couple things to point out on this. You'll see on the property line in between the residential use and the church property, there was a drive-through there. The surveyor did revise the plan as per our discussions to bring it in conformance with the current zoning to establish the required setbacks for the paving there. So my understanding is the pavement still goes through, but at some point upon approval, that will be removed to achieve the setback. With that, I do recommend approval on both items. Excuse me, let me back up one step here. This request was to rezone this residential. The surrounding outside of the parks and institution, the surrounding zoning is R50. I am recommending to rezone to that R50 to be consistent and conform with the surrounding residential zoning.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Van Gundy. Are there any questions or comments from any of the commission members?
Just a quick question for clarification. Does the church intend on continuing to rent this property out or sell it at some point?
We are renting it as of now. I can't say that in a year or two that we may be looking at selling it.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that clarification. And was there any other questions or comments from members of the Planning Commission?
This is Peter Volis. I'd like to actually continue that conversation for a second, please. If the church decided to sell the parsonage, and we grant the change that they're requesting, wouldn't that have to be converted back to a residential use if it was going to be sold in the future? I guess it's a question for Marty.
Absolutely, that's a good question.
I just want to educate the applicant here on their request.
Right. So the parsonage is a permitted use for the parks and institutions. So with that being an accessory use to the church, the current zoning is appropriate. However, renting it out as a single family dwelling technically isn't the parsonage, or may not be part of the parsonage. So whether this is rented or sold to someone not affiliated to the church, this would be the most appropriate action to continue with this request, and that would eliminate any concerns from a zoning standpoint.
Thank you for that explanation, Mr. Van Gundy. Mr. Volis, does that satisfy what you were looking to discuss?
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Anybody else from the commission have any other thoughts? All right, hearing none at the moment. Randa, I don't know if we had anybody queued up that wanted to discuss this issue, but I guess I will throw it out to see if anybody from the community had any comments or questions. All right, hearing none, I guess I would entertain a motion. And I guess for point of clarification, Marty, we're going to take these as two separate votes, correct? 5 and number 6?
That's correct.
Okay. So I guess I'd be looking initially for a motion for item number 5.
I'll motion to approve item number 5 as submitted.
Okay, and I think that was Mr. Milhausen, right? So we have
Yes.
a motion, and do we have a second?
I will second it.
Okay, and a second from Mr. Sarah. And would the clerk please call the vote?
Mr. Milhausen,
Yes.
Mr. Volas,
Yes.
Mr. Dalpace,
Yes.
Mr. McLeister,
Yes.
Mr. Sarah.
Yes.
All right, fantastic. Motion or the item carries. So now I guess we'll be talking about the second aspect of it, which would be the actual zone change. Item number 6 here, zone change from parts and institution to residential R50. Do we have a motion on that item?
I'll make a motion to approve item number 6 as submitted.
All right, thank you, Mr. Delapace. We have a motion. Do we have a second for this item?
Peter Volas will second it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Volas. So we have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please call roll?
Mr.
Or
Sarah,
the vote, excuse me?
Yes.
Mr. Dalpace,
Yes.
Mr. McLeister,
Yes.
Mr. Volas,
Yes.
Mr. Milhausen.
Yes.
Okay, well, that item passes as well. So with that, we will move on to item number 7 on our agenda. And as I believe this will be an adjudication hearing, is that correct, Mr. Van Gundy?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
So at this point, if we could please have our court reporter administer the oath to anybody who wishes to speak on this event or this item from the public.
Yes, those wanting to speak, if you can raise your right hand. Do solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
I do. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Okay. With that, so we're going to be talking about item number 7, which is the application for 540 North Main Street. And this is going to be for a conditional use permit and development review for a new drive-through to support a new coffee shop. So with that, do we have anybody from the in support of the applicant here to present this tonight?
Yes, Chuck Dahl.
Well, welcome, Chuck. What do you have any information would you like to tell us a little bit about this project here?
I'm just a developer. The gentleman's with me that has the coffee shop. He has 2 other coffee shops now. So it's not his first time here. He has one in Perry Heights and one in Massillon also.
Okay.
Do you have any specific questions about the location that we can answer, or just in general, would you like to know about it?
Well, yeah, in general, I think for the benefit of those that are on the line, if you're able to sort of
Wait, guys. We're getting feedback.
We got hot mic.
Yes, if you are not speaking, if you could please go on mute, that would be fantastic. Yeah, if you're able to sort of roll us through what you're looking to do here, that'd be great.
Awesome. Well, again, my name is Mark Kemp. I own Tremont Coffee with my wife, Michelle. We started, just some background about Tremont Coffee. We started Tremont about 5 years ago with our first location in downtown Massillon. Michelle and I are very familiar with North Canton and used to spend a lot of time at Cafe Gelato when we were much younger. We actually had our first apartment together in North Canton. So we were very excited to try to open another location that I think is much needed in North Canton. I mean, a real live, locally owned coffee shop. This location is not an extremely large location. I think it'll be a very quaint, intimate, your typical little coffee shop. We are not, I wouldn't say we're the Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts model. We actually care about every customer that comes in our store. We know most of our customers by name because they're all in our store daily. This location would have a drive-through. Unfortunately, I think that's a part of the nature of the beast of owning a food or a coffee type business nowadays. People want the convenience of a drive-through. Along with COVID, it's also something that we see that is a help to keep us in business, especially during this weird time that we have right now with COVID. As Mr. Dahl, the developer of this project, mentioned, this again is our third spot. We have our downtown Massillon location is now our coffee roastery. We roast all of our coffee from that spot, package everything from there. That would supply our store at this location in North Canton. Our Perry location is a little bit bigger than this spot we're proposing in North Canton. It does have a drive-through. The one thing I can tell you about the drive-through system, some of the concerns that I would personally have if I was a neighbor of this property is the typical menu board, speaker, squawk box that's going to annoy everybody early in the morning or late in the evening. That is not the system that we have put in, and at our Perry locations, it would not be the type of equipment we would put in this North Canton location either. What we have installed is a digital high definition speaker post. And in layman's terms, what that means is it sounds like you're talking to a person 3 feet away from you. If you were in the car behind you or probably 15 feet away from that speaker post, you wouldn't be able to hear what the conversation was. That's how quiet it is. It's crystal clear both ways, so no one has to yell at each other. Another concern that I would have for this location, if I was personally living in this neighborhood, is the beautification of the area. I have no intention of turning our location into a giant parking lot. I mean, it obviously is a parking lot, but I'm concerned about it looking nice. Our entire business model is not just making coffee. It's in working with our neighbors and being a good neighbor in the areas that we come into. We support school systems. We support other nonprofits. And as well as being just a general good neighbor. I have full intention of putting hostas and ornamental grasses and arborvitae on the one side of the property that there's a house right there. Unfortunately, to do some of the work to the parking lot, we did take a tree down, and it's something I didn't want to do, but it was required. So in place of that, I have full intention of doing some kind of landscaping there to make it look better. I guess the rest of around going towards the front of the property and Main Street there, we will clean up the wall and re-landscape and decorate across the front there also, where there's some green space already. Other than that, I don't think there'll be much to the outside of the building that's going to change, other than we will have to put a dumpster in, and same thing. I personally don't want a big old ugly dumpster out there, so we'll hide that as well and make it look nice too. Other than that, is there any specific questions I can hopefully answer for someone?
Well, why don't we hold off on that for a second, and I'll let Mr. Van Gundy from the city jump in if he has anything that he would like to add to your presentation.
Hello?
Is Mr. Van Gundy still on, or did he get disconnected?
No, he's still on.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we got you.
Okay. I was using the temporary unmute function here and evidently didn't work. So, okay. So this is a unique opportunity to develop a vacant building. This building site has been vacant for some time. It is a bit unique in the sense it's a small building with a fairly large area. The proposed use is a good combination, not only for the site specific, but also the surrounding use. All of the adjoining properties that immediately abut to the applicant site is all zone GBB. With that, we have outright permitted use for the coffee shop itself. And of course, this is what the drive-through will be supporting. Some of the other uniqueness is our zoning code is a bit antiquated. It hasn't been brought up to date with some of the current needs of the community, namely, and it was already brought up, was COVID. Much of the food service anymore really does need alternate means to serve the community. This application has been reviewed with the fire department, engineering, building, and I have talked with the police chief on that as well. Any of the concerns that have been presented have been easily remedied. The zoning does seem to allow the drive-through. And the unique part of that is there really is not any specific criteria that addresses the design standards for drive-throughs. 114507 parent F really gives us essentially two criteria that are fairly broad. One of which, and the second one, has already been addressed. We've talked about this at the pre-application process, and that is the loudspeaker system. It seems the new technology has addressed this and does not seem to be an issue for the surrounding uses. The first one is also fairly broad in that just states such facilities shall be located in an area least disruptive to pedestrians or vehicular traffic. Now, and again, in coordination with the other departments, the queue for the drive-through will be on the property and it will come off of the 5th Street side. The only concern was if they were to queue off of Main Street. That's not the case. This has been designed so they're queuing off of 5th Street. And from a traffic standpoint, there hasn't been any concerns. So between the traffic and zoning, it's been concluded that this is consistent with the ordinance. We are recommending an approval on both items here, the conditional use permit for the drive-through, as well as the development review. I'd like to also add, in hearing a lot of this about this project in the pre-application process, it did pique my curiosity. I did visit the Perry Heights location and was not disappointed in the least bit. It met all of the descriptors that was provided in the pre-application process. Might go a little further. There are things that you just can't describe, and or maybe you wouldn't in a zoning review. But the coffee itself was good coffee, and the atmosphere in the building was, you could tell they took their time and had a good project in that. Now, of course, my job's not to critique the coffee, but nonetheless, it is consistent with the zoning and a good fit for the site.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing, Mr. Van Gundy. With that, questions or comments from members of the Planning Commission?
This is Brian Mahalson. With the comment of queuing coming off of 5th Street, how many cars are, I'm assuming that the queuing comes along the back of the building and there would be the drive-through window on the north side of the building?
Randa, could you put the site plan up so everyone can see that? I see we're on the application. The site plan does a good job of showing the queuing and the flow of traffic.
Okay, so there's room there there's adequate room for cars to stack up without overflowing out onto 5th Street. That seems to be more than adequate. Okay. Answers my question.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mahalson. Anybody else from the Planning Commission?
Yeah, this is Tom, Sarah. So how is the lighting going? What's the hours of operation? And then how's the lighting going to be to adequately light the site?
So this is Mark from Tremont. To briefly answer that, there's already currently lighting on the property, which we don't intend to change. There would be lighting at the drive-through menu board itself, which would be facing the menu board. And your other question was hours of operation. Currently, we're 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Thank you.
Does anybody else from the Planning Commission have any questions or comments?
Yeah, this is Peter Volus. The parking spaces behind the building, are those really needed, or are those just, can those be eliminated and still comply with the requirement on the parking? It just seemed like those have difficult to access.
Peter, this is Mark again. To answer your question, those were intended for employee parking only. So it's something that would be long-term. I mean, obviously we don't want to jam up at the drive-through, but we would obviously try to put the employee parking in the rear of the property. That could change. That was just kind of where we set it for now. I mean, some of that could possibly turn into landscaping as well.
Are those existing? I don't recall.
They were not existing. There was a lot basically behind the property, grass lot.
Okay. So that's an improvement to the site then.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Are there any further questions or comments from members of the Planning Commission?
Just a comment, I guess, if I was coming into work, and I would anticipate this business is going to be very popular. If I was coming into work and wanted to park back there, I might be cut off by the queue line.
They'll have to give them a grace period with the time clock.
Yeah.
Are you talking?
Yeah.
Our employees would be there like a half hour before opening for sure.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the members of the Planning Commission before we open this up to members of the community?
This is Eric Delpez.
Yes.
My only comment is, you talked about the landscaping, but it's not shown on the plan. I would just think if we make a motion on this, that, that needs to be shown and submitted to Martin, just to make sure that is indicated that it does happen for sure. Because I know the zoning requires landscaping in the internal parking areas. But if you are going to improve the outside, I think it would probably be good to have that indicated on the plan as submitted.
This is Mr. Mahal. This project will still need to go through plan approval, correct?
I'm sorry, can you please say that again, Mr. Mahalson?
This proposed change of use would still have to go through the the plan review process to submit for, this will be permitted construction, correct?
That's correct. So from here, if Planning Commission proceeds with the approvals on these two items before you, the next step would be the applicant would submit the construction drawings. Those would get circulated within the city departments that do the typical construction reviews, such as fire and engineering and building and zoning.
So that would be the appropriate time to address the landscaping as well.
Right. And I'll point out on the existing, much of it is existing. The back area where the drive-through currently is proposed, that was all gravel area. There was not any landscaping before. The landscaping was really limited to the corner right where the sign is on the corner of 5th and North Main. And yeah, we'll certainly look at that, and I'll work with the applicant to make sure that they give us some details on the landscaping, the plans proposed in that corner area.
Thank you, Mr. Van Gundy.
Martin, this is Tom, Sarah. So is the city concerned at all about the fact that a person exiting after they pick up their beverage onto Main Street and possibly going to the south could be an issue?
That was discussed in the pre-application process. And of course, the city engineer does our traffic analysis, and that point or that scenario was brought up specifically. And there was no concern. Ultimately, there wouldn't be any anticipated impact on Main Street if someone did opt to wait for traffic to turn south. They would only be backing up the drive-through, and it wouldn't impact anything from a city concern.
Any other questions or comments from members of the Planning Commission? With that, I would like to open it up to members questions or comments from members of the community. And just as a reminder that this is an adjudication hearing and you should have sworn in earlier. If you didn't swear in earlier and you'd like to talk, perhaps we can do that again, but hopefully you've already sworn in. So at that point, I'd like to open this up to members of the community who'd like to speak on this.
Yes, I would.
And if you could please state your name for us.
Susan Craig.
And I'm sorry, you said that again was what? I'm sorry?
Craig, C-R-A-I-G.
Okay, great, Susan. Okay.
Hold on, we got noise.
I'd like to remind everybody, if you're not speaking, if you could please go on mute.
There we go.
There we go. And Mrs. Craig, are you there? Did we lose her?
It shows her audio is off. Maybe it was her making the noise.
Very well could have been. Tell you what, we can come back to her.
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Do you want me to unmute her and see if that works?
Yes, if you could unmute Susan Craig, that would be great.
Can you hear me?
I think, is that, Susan, do we have you back?
Hello?
Well, while we're trying to reestablish connection with her, oh, I'm sorry, was that you?
This is Susan.
Oh, fantastic, Susan. All right, what would you like to share with us this evening? And apologize about the technology issues.
That's all right. Well, I live in the blue house beside what used to be Just Hair and the proposed coffee shop. I want to say I love coffee. I'm excited about the coffee shop idea. But I have, and I will have to say it broke my heart when the 2 pine trees were cut down. We planted those pine trees 30 years ago on what we thought was our property line, and they were a great shade for my front porch. I realized they were on business property, but it did really grieve me. But my concern is our privacy. From the looks of the plan, the cars are going to be driving right under my dining room window, meaning if we're having dinner at 6 o'clock and we want the shades open, everybody's going to be driving by and can see right into my house. So I just feel like there's going to be some privacy issues on our part. And I just wonder what, I didn't catch his name, Tremont Coffee owner, sorry, what you can propose about doing for that.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that. Mr. Kemp, if you're on, do you have any thoughts or suggestions around what
I do.
She was?
I do, Susan, and I sincerely apologize about the tree. It is something I didn't want to do either, but it's been a concern of mine since day one that I saw it. I am more than willing to add an additional fence, working between our property line and yours in any way that we could either do a privacy fence, a combination of privacy fence, arborvitae, a taller, skinnier tree scenario, ornamental grasses, a combination of all of those. That's completely understandable from my standpoint. If that helps curb some of your reservations, I understand where you're coming from.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that, Kim.
I guess my other questions were already answered. I was wondering about the hours, 7A to 7P. Although I'm a nurse, I leave at 6:30. You think you could have a cup of coffee ready for me? Just kidding.
We may be able to work something out.
Like I said, I love coffee. But yeah, the privacy on our part, from our dining room and from my porch. I live on my front porch when it's warm, spring, summer, fall. And I guess I just like to have some of that privacy back that the pine tree supported me. So I guess we can get together and talk at some point and come up with some kind of plan and solution.
That's fine. I completely agree with you. I will set that up with you. I promise.
Okay. And your name is again?
It's Mark, M-A-R-K, Kemp, K-E-M-P.
K-A-M-D.
K-E-M-P.
K-E-M-D. Okay.
Oh,
D or P? D is a
P,
dog or
count.
P is a...
Paul.
Okay.
Yep.
Paul. Okay. That's okay. All right. Well, thank you, Mark. And
Thank you for sharing, Mrs. Craig. Did you have any other thoughts or concerns? Or are we able to move on to somebody else who might want to share?
No, that's if I think of anything else, I'll jump back in. But that was my main concern, was the privacy and the landscaping.
Okay, thank you so much.
The noise, but he already said that he's got very quiet speakers. So yeah, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else from the community who would like to speak on this?
Mayor Wilder would like to say something, if I may, Chairman.
Well, of course, Mr. Mayor, welcome.
Thank you very much. I just want to thank the commission again for their attention and the questions that have been posed to Mr. Kemp. And Mr. Kemp, I haven't had the pleasure to meet you, but hopefully things will go forward for you. It's wonderful that another small business has found its way to our corridor of opportunity, our Main Street. And I think what you have taken on to repurpose an abandoned, basically, building for quite a few years, and to make a very nice addition to that corner of 5th Street in North Main. And I'm very encouraged that you searched North Canton out to be your third location. It plays right into what Mr. Van Gundy said with some of our outdated zoning, that we can we are in a stage of improving zoning. And this helps us to, again, attract new business. And I appreciate his compassion for the neighborhood, but also we want to be a city that embraces entrepreneurship and small business. And I think the addition of Tremont Coffee into that location is going to be a real asset for our community. And it's, again, it helps us, again, with planning and zoning, I believe we're trying to make ourselves more workable with developers, that we are business friendly. So I just wanted to share those few comments with you, how I think very fortunate we are for North Canton to have a new small business and join our community and be an asset with bringing employees and again, job density and to that degree of of their employees. But it helps with our property tax and our income tax. So we have a wonderful community that I think embraces small business. So Mr. Kemp and your wife Michelle, I hope we'll be able to go forward and have you have a very profitable business. And I understand the drive-throughs for, as you see on Main Street, have been a godsend for many of our small businesses. So, Mr. Chair, thank you very much for allowing me to share those few comments tonight.
Well, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for sharing those with us. Is there anybody else from the community who would like to speak?
Can I ask one more question, comment? Did I understand that the developer is Jeff Dahl of Jeff's Motor Cars?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, very good. Thank you for your investment in North Canton.
Welcome.
I expect to see some nice cars and coffee events here then if you own Jeff's Motor Cars. So I'm sorry. With that, I guess I'll bring it back to any more questions or comments from the members of the Planning Commission. And while I'm waiting for those to come online that might have those questions, I just want to throw out there, I didn't have a chance really to talk about this at all because all my questions or concerns were kind of alleviated in the this course of discussion. And I just have to say that I've heard nothing but good things about Tremont, and certainly hope this works out for you tonight, because I think you'd be a welcome addition to the city. So on that, anybody else from the Planning Commission or city have any comments? With that, I would be entertaining a motion, and this would be a motion for conditional use and development review for item number 7 on our agenda, which is application number 20 NCPC-0006. So is there a motion?
This is Tom Serra. I'd like to make a motion to accept the conditional use permit and development review for a new drive-through to support a new coffee shop with one addition, and that is some type of a privacy fence or privacy barrier is placed on the, I guess it would be the east side of the property, to that's satisfactory for Susan Gregg, residential house there.
Thank you, Mr. Sarah. We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
This is Peter Volis. I will second that.
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please call our vote?
Mr. Dalpace,
Yes.
Mr. Sarah,
Yes.
Mr. McLeister,
Yes.
Mr. Volis,
Yes.
Mr. Mahousen.
Yes.
All right, fantastic. That item is approved on the agenda. And with that, that brings us to the end of our agenda for this evening. Before we adjourn, I just wanted to take about 30 seconds to just give out some heartfelt thanks in this atypical year that we have had here with the Planning Commission. I want to personally thank Randa and Marty definitely for this change in venue. Who would have thought that this entire year we would have met virtually from our organizational meeting until now? And I think you guys have been great with the technology. I want to thank both of you guys. Also want to send a thank out to Mr. Mayor, to Ben from the council office, as well as Kathy and Pat. You guys have all been great to work with in this, as I said, atypical year. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn for the evening.
A motion to adjourn. This is Brian Mahalson.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mawson. We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I'll second Eric Dalpace.
All right, thank you, Eric. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Thank you, everybody. And with that, I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season. And this concludes our meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.